Thank you all for joining today. My name is Tim Stewart, and I work with Visual Decisions as the president. We're here to talk about reducing service and warranty costs with Industry 4.0. Quick introduction about myself first. I am president at Visual Decisions. We have been working in this space of Industry 4.0 and utilizing information from devices and machines and so forth to reduce operational costs for 15 years now. So much longer than it was actually called Industry 4.0, but we have been in that business of collecting data and analyzing that data with our customers and teaching them how to do that effectively for quite some time now. So as we start to look at the agenda for today, we're going to initially look at what is it that drives service and warranty costs? And then we're going to look at how we can address some of those using augmented reality technologies. Then we're going to look at smart connected products and being able to take telemetry data and data from the products out in the field and utilize that for improving operations and service. And finally, there's also a very large opportunity to utilize the AR and IoT and machine learning technologies within the factory itself, so that you don't have the quality escapes in the first place, which drive a lot of warranty costs. But we're actually doing a talk in 2 weeks on improving quality within the four walls, utilizing those technologies. So please come back and join us then. And we'll get into a lot of detail then about how to utilize these technologies within the plant to eliminate the quality problems in the first place. So with that said, let's move on to looking at augmented reality and how that can help us with service. So first of all, why is service and warranty so important to manufacturers? Well, this drives a lot of your product out and of your company out in the marketplace. You want to be able to look at not only how good the product is and so forth, but how well it's serviced and so forth. Makes a very big impact on the overall perception of your company, and so very important for your reputation and your ongoing sales and so forth. So what are some of the big challenges that are associated with it? Well, first of all, there's a skilled labor shortage, and it's very hard to attract and retain people within service organizations. And for instance, 70% of service organizations will be burdened by the knowledge of a retiring workforce. And then how do you get new workers up to speed? How do you both attract and retain millennials and get them focused on the operations and so forth? And then another complexity is increasing product complexity. And so as time goes on, products themselves are becoming more complex, and especially as you get into the smart connected products and so forth, that adds another layer of complexity to this. And so how do you effectively service those products out in the field? And then increasing customer demands. We very much live in a now kind of a world, and customers are expecting things immediate. They're working on Amazon time and so forth, where they expect that instant gratification when they have an issue. And so the service level agreement targets are much more aggressive than they were in the past. So when we look at service and warranty costs, service costs can be broken down into 4 key categories: labor and training costs, service dispatch costs when you have to send somebody out, downtime and SLA penalties, and then safety and compliance costs. Warranty adds another layer to that for the costs of the replacement parts and units, plus the reverse logistics costs and so forth. So let's take a look at those 4 categories and see what drives those. So if we look at training costs and labor costs, obviously when you're talking about service, labor is going to be a very much primary part of the costs that are associated with any service industry. But how is that trending in these organizations? And when you look at a lot of people that are in service for industrial products, a lot of those people are in the baby boomer generation and so forth. And with the number of people that are retiring each day, there's an average of 31.5% turnover rate amongst the younger demographics that come in. It's notoriously hard to both attract and retain the millennial generation in these types of jobs. And training the new technicians can be very expensive and time consuming. Not only do you take that new person out of the field, but very often you're taking the experienced people out of the field to train those new people as well. And so 5 to 20% of the expert time is spent just documenting the procedures and then training the new hires on those procedures. And then the ability or inability rather to offer the meaningful training for a lot of companies leaves a lot of people kind of disillusioned when they come in. And so among employees with poor training opportunities, 41% plan to leave within a year. On the other hand, for companies that had excellent training, only 12% plan to leave within the year. And so that ability to retain your people is much, much higher within those organizations that have very good training opportunities. So looking a little bit more in detail at those training costs, you have the direct costs. So the new hires can require intensive training before they can be deployed in the field, especially for companies that have very complex products or a lot of different products and so forth. And so that direct training cost is very large for many organizations. The opportunity costs that people aren't in the field when they're doing the training or giving the training, and if it takes 3 weeks to train a new person, whereas it could take 1, then those 2 weeks are obviously time that you're paying that person that they're not being productive where they otherwise could be. The operational costs, sometimes you have to cover living expenses or reimburse for travel if you have centralized training facilities that people have to come to. And then attrition costs, where you have to replace those employees and so forth, and then you have to hire new people and go through that whole process again. So a lot of different types of costs associated with this. From a service dispatch cost perspective, obviously when you have to send somebody out to repair a unit, whether that's covered under warranty or whether it's a service opportunity, you want to be able to reduce the cost of that visit as much as you possibly can. And so a single dispatch cost can be very expensive, but those costs can multiply if the person can't immediately resolve it. So if the first time fix rate is low, then those costs are going to be much higher than they should be, because you have someone that has to go out to that customer multiple times to fix the problem, whether they didn't have the right parts in the first place, or they didn't have the right training or expertise, or they had to go, they didn't have the right manual or something like that, and they have to come back to the headquarters and then go back out to the customer to make that fix. So that's going to hurt both the first time fix rate, increase the costs, decrease the customer satisfaction, and also increase the amount of downtime that product is experiencing out in the field. Call center costs, those costs are also can be baked into this, because your people out in the field will often call back into the call center to get support as they're trying to increase that first time fix rate. And so some of those call center costs are supporting your technicians out in the field as well. The downtime and SLA penalties. Depending on your agreements with your customers, you may have service level agreements, or you may have chargebacks from your customers if you have, issues, or if they experience issues with your product, in their product out in the field. So for instance, in, automotive industries, Ford and GM, et cetera, will, charge back to their suppliers, potentially millions of dollars if, there are warranty issues that are associated with their product. And so, these can be, extremely expensive for anything that you have, whether it's that warranty issue, or whether it's the, actual, your product out in the field that you have a service level agreement with the end customer on. And so, in terms of the downtime and so forth, being able to, provide accurate documentation is going to be a cost that's associated with that. And so you have to be able to author those, precise step-by-step instructions, localizing that service documentation if you sell to, areas with different languages and so forth. And then being able to maintain that accurate service documentation over time. It's not just creating it in the first place, but it's also, maintaining that as the product enhancements come through and so forth. So each generation of the product requires updates to those documents. And then safety and compliance costs. I don't think I have to go too much into detail here, but obviously safety is a huge issue, and compliance for where you have those requirements as well are also very critical. And so there are just huge costs associated with this from a hard dollar perspective, as well as just the soft dollar impact, or soft impact of just safety and your reputation in the marketplace, where people may get hurt. So with all of that said, and that kind of introduction behind us, why is augmented reality important for service and warranty? And also kind of what is it anyway? So as we see here, the man is looking at the product, but he sees the overlay of, the productivity, or, a manual, or, anything else that's associated with that product. And so, what that does is it gives us the capability of seeing the reality itself, but also having the augmentation of that with other information. And so that's a little bit different from virtual reality, where you basically put blinders on. You don't see anything that's reality, but you just have that virtual image in front of you. And so the augmented reality is that combination of the two. So how does that help us from a service and warranty perspective? If we look at being able to see the documentation in front of us, and being able to have all of that additional knowledge base that's right there, as we're looking at the products and so forth, can certainly reduce the amount of time that we have to spend on a service call. Increases the probability of getting it first time right and so forth. But if we look at empowering those frontline workers with that context and relevant information, that's very large impact. If we look at replacing outdated, inaccurate, hard copy instructions with up-to-date, maintained in real time, augmented information, that's a big advantage. Letting the technicians fully concentrate on their tasks, because the information is presented right there. They don't have to look at the machine, then turn and look at the manual, and then look back at the machine, and then turn and look at the manual, page through the manual to get to the right place. Everything is right there in front of them at one time. So it reduces that cognitive load. And finally, facilitating communication, knowledge transfer, and training from your experts to your new and existing workforce that may not have that same level of expertise is very critical as well. So in terms of the training itself, the AR equips the on-site technicians with easy to access visual aids and service instructions. So as we see in the image on the left, as we either look through the glasses and see the text overlaid on the image itself, or if we look on a cell phone or a tablet or something like that, we can also see that same data combined with the image from the camera, with that overlay of where maintenance is needed or where we're verifying progress or different things like that. And so it improves the traditional training methods. If you can think of having this type of an interface and learning to do a process would be so much easier this way rather than going through a manual or having somebody at the front of a classroom explaining it to you. If you can actually go out and actually see these things highlighted step by step, it's going to be a whole lot easier to learn things. It improves the traditional training methods with that visual content. I'll also say that the younger generation of the people that you're primarily recruiting, to be a part of these service organizations and perform your warranty repairs and so forth, will very much relate to this kind of a technology because it's something that they really expect to see, and so your retention of those employees goes up as well. And then it just helps lower the cost of the offsite training facilities, the travel expenses, and all of those things that you have to do to bring employees in for centralized training. If you can distribute these things and have that training be remote, that's going to help an awful lot with reducing those training costs. I mentioned first time fixed right earlier, but that's another absolutely critical impact. Being able to see those overlays right on the product itself as you're doing the maintenance, and being able to see what the analytics are telling you is wrong with that device, as well as the step-by-step instructions to make those repairs, can obviously help quite a bit in terms of getting the repair done correctly in the first place. Being able to pull in additional expertise, so something like the Vuforia Chalk tool that PTC supplies, where you can have an expert on the other end of the connection, and it's like a QuickTime, or not QuickTime, a FaceTime phone call. But you can annotate things, you can give directions. It has spatial integrity, so as you turn your phone or your tablet or whatever, the marks stay in the same place on the machines, and provides a very excellent tool for communication between those different people, and so really helps get things done right the first time, and increases the accuracy and safety and everything else of those operations out in the field. In terms of less downtime and SLA penalties and so forth, being able to fix it right in the first place is going to drive down your downtime. Being able to support the customer analysis, and if you can provide some of these VR tools to the customers themselves, they may be able to address a lot of these issues without bringing a technician out in the first place. And then also just having better instructions and more capable instructions so that you can do these things in the first place is greatly enhanced. And we'll also talk about the smart connected products in a minute and how that feeds into these things as well. And with that transition, I should say, as we go along here, if you have any questions, please put them in either the Q&A or the chat, and I will do my best to answer those as we go along. That was a lot right there. So if anybody wants to, take a second and, ask a question, I'll respond to that before I move on. All right. So with smart connected products, first of all, what is a smart connected product? Smart connected product, if you think about the latest generation of vehicles with GM OnStar or anything like that, that are sending the telemetry data of people driving back to GM as they utilize the vehicle, and then GM can actually see how their car is performing. They can do remote diagnostics. They can do any number of different things with that information. Something as simple as a water cooler that you attach to the wall and put out in your office building. Even those are becoming smart products now, where they can automatically signal when a filter needs to be changed and things like that. And so those smart connected products are growing at a really fast speed out in the marketplace. And for some of you, it may even be that your companies are putting those out there today. And so how do you utilize that information to impact your service and your warranty costs? So when we look at intelligent products and combine that with some of the service optimization opportunities as well as product innovation opportunities, starting on the service side, looking at remote service, if you have that data coming from your products of how it's being used out in the field, how some of those process variables are trending and so forth, the predictive maintenance that you can do within your own facilities, you can also do that kind of predictive maintenance out in the field. And whether that is something that is done through machine learning, or you just set alerts and on different levels and so forth. There's different capabilities that are there for different types of data and different frequencies of data, but those are all capabilities to drive eliminating that downtime in the first place, where you can identify that something is trending in a bad direction, and rather than waiting for it to fail and having the customer call you, you can proactively notify them that that bearing is trending in a bad direction, and you recommend the service to be performed while the end machine is down for out of use. And so lots of opportunities there. Enhanced self-service. So as these products are collecting that information and so forth, you can provide that information to the customer, whether it's free or whether it's a paid service. And now the customers have access to that information as well, so that they can understand better how to maintain their own products and be able to reduce the burden on your staff to service them, as well as they may not make a warranty claim in the first place if they can maintain that more effectively on their own. It's also something where it gives you visibility into some of those things where they may not be using it under the terms of the warranty and so forth. So the last item here is the field technician efficiency. And so one of the things I talked about earlier was, technicians will go out and not have the right materials at hand to fix the problem the first time. Well, if you understand what the problem is, because you have that remote diagnostic capability, that field technician time on site can first of all be reduced, but also made much more effective because they have an understanding of what's going to be required before they ever arrive on site. So all of those things talk about how your connected products can have a big impact on service optimization. And then, of course, there's opportunities to drive additional revenue with those things, whether it's going back to that water vendor I talked about earlier. Water cooler vendor, they're moving into a business where they sell, flavored water, bubbled water, and so forth coming out of these machines, and being able to remotely diagnose, some of those usage patterns so that they can proactively supply, some of those consumables is, a revenue opportunity for them. And then, there's also the opportunity to take that data from the field and drive that back into my product design, so that my next generation of my product takes that information of how it was used in the field, how it failed in the field, where it ran into trouble and so forth, fix that in my next generation of the product, and hopefully reduce my warranty costs over time as a result of that. So I think I covered a lot of this already, but the product connectivity, being able to just connect to those products and collect that data and so forth is one aspect of this. Being able to do simple integration with that data into that product design offering, into your service management, your personnel management systems, being able to do the real-time monitoring so that you can see in real time or near real time what's happening on that equipment that's out on the field, being able to do that condition-based service and have the alerts or the machine learning applications, being able to predict what's going to happen in the future. the product performance KPIs so that you can see, get an overview of how that product is actually performing, and then also being able to augment remote assistance out to the field and so forth. So all of those are different aspects of the product intelligence. So how does this drive some of the top line financial results? I should say that the data that I'm using, Visual Decisions has partnered very closely with PTC in this space, and both the Vuforia product as well as the ThingWorx product for AR and industrial Internet of Things respectively. And so these are results that they've seen from their customers, looking within service itself, being able to increase service revenues by 3 to 10%, looking at the consumables I talked about a minute ago, or just increasing the price and margin of what they're offering. The service costs can be reduced by 3 to 8%. On-site time can be reduced dramatically. The training time can be impacted dramatically, and your overhead costs can be impacted as well as your first-time fixed rate and your remote resolution. So all very big opportunities from these smart connected product and AR technologies. Just kind of another view of this, looking at decreasing my overall service costs by 8 to 20%. And that's really impacted by my first time fixed rate going up, my mean time to repair going down, and the number of dispatches that I have to make out to the customer going down as well. And then just looking at how that impacts my mean time to repair, fixed rate, and truck rolls over on the right side. And then just some example customers that PTC has out in the field for these different technologies: Flowserve, Bell and Howell, NCR, et cetera. And quantified outcomes of $40 million in service cost savings, 5,000 site visits saved, 80 to 90% first time fixed rate, which is huge increase for these guys. Being able to solve 20 to 70% of those issues remotely, reduction in on-site time, faster technician training time, and so forth. So really, really strong success stories that, if you're interested, we can supply you with details on. So that was it for the presentation for today. I want to thank you for attending. If you do have questions, please put them into the Q&A or the chat. I would very much like to talk to you all about how you're utilizing some of these things in your companies, or where you may be running into issues on the service and warranty side of the the house there. So if you don't mind, I will be following up with an email to each one of you to see how we can help out. I see we don't have any questions, and so I want to thank you for your time this morning. I know I scheduled it for an hour, but we'll wrap up a little bit early here today. Thank you very much.